Hello, I'm Jemma Jackson from the Association of Investment Companies. Today we're looking at the prospects for the environmental sector, with 2015 set to be the hottest on record by a country mile according to the Met Office. And because the 2015 Paris Climate Conference is taking place in early December, now isn't a good time to consider the sector. Whilst the case for the environmental sector has always seemed compelling given the scale of the challenge, the sector as a whole remains quite small in size. Is it time that investors considered the environmental sector? We're lucky enough to be joined by two managers who have each managed their investment companies since launch. I'd like to welcome Charlie Thomas, manager of Jupiter Green, and Bruce Jenkyn-Jones, head of listed equities at Impax Asset Management and co-manager of Impax Environmental Markets. Do you think we'll see real and tangible outcomes from this year's Paris Climate Change Conference, as well as any potential unintended consequences?
Well, I think we've already seen significant consequences out of this conference, because in the build-up after the disappointments of the Copenhagen conference in 2009, I think the participants realised the importance of getting some tangible steps readily on the table for the start of the conference. So I think over 180 countries have already made significant pledges about what they plan to do with CO2. That includes key countries like US, India, China. So we're starting from a good place, and the key for the conference itself will be to get a clear framework for moving forward.
And in terms of adding on to what Bruce has said, I think there's one, when we look into the detail of it, and I think at the moment we have around about a 51-page document, I think there's one very interesting element in the documentation, which is known as the ratchet, which is the ability for this COP to be revisited every 5 years and allow more stringent emissions reductions to come into play. I think that will be very important as we see the evolution of technology and disruptive technology in the renewable energy space.
Where are the opportunities right now in the environmental sector, and can you give us any names?
Well, there's a vast array of opportunities. I mean, the universe of companies in our area is around about 1,200 companies. Areas that, funny enough, we're quite interested in again, and particularly revisiting at the moment, is particularly around the solar space, where in many respects we've taken a holiday from that sector. We're now refocusing on that, where we think there could be real long-term catalysts in terms of the demand and potentially, in certain instances, the profitability in the sector.
Yeah, we also feel that renewable energy, which has been probably the most difficult environmental market to navigate in the past, is looking more attractive than it has for a while. I think to give you a specific name not linked to renewables would be a environmental testing company called Horiba, which is our top holding at the moment, potential beneficiary out of the Volkswagen scandal, as I think inevitably we're going to see a lot more emissions testing in vehicles.
So you've both managed your companies since launch. Can you explain a little bit about how the sector's changed over the years, and how do today's opportunities compare?
I think two principal changes over the sort of 12, 13 years we've been managing the company. The opportunity remains very interesting and there's a lot of growth going on, but what we've seen is it's just got a lot bigger. The investment opportunity, we used to look at sort of 200 or 300 companies, today it's well over 1,000. I think the other big change has been emerging markets. We're starting to see, well, for the last 6 or 7 years, we've seen the key emerging markets facing significant environmental challenges and investment opportunities starting to emerge, and real companies benefiting from those opportunities.
I think probably to add to that, I think there's one other area which we refer as mainstreaming, which is an effect that environmental issues have very much moved from the fringe of our thinking and very much into mainstream central policy and decision making. And I think as that happens, that encourages investment in the sector and ultimately benefits companies which are providing the solutions within that sector. We
hear a lot also about disruptive technology. How much of a role do you think technology will play in tackling climate change compared, say, to global policy?
I'm actually very optimistic around it. I have a kind of a view that we might find ourselves in a few years' time where actually technology will be affecting policy rather than the other way around as we currently see. And that's really been driven by the fact that these are technologies that are emerging all the time. They are getting cheaper to produce, cheaper to install, and they will be much more disruptive than perhaps it has been historically. So I'm actually have become much more optimistic on it.
No, indeed. I think the energy sector is very much moving into the technology space. If you look at the 40-year history of the solar sector, you'll see that the cost of a panel has halved every 5 years over that period, and that's a pretty interesting development. You're getting similar things with a number of energy efficiency technologies like light-emitting diodes, also lithium-ion batteries. So as the cost continues to come down for those technologies, policymakers will have more confidence to make commitments because they can see that the solutions are on their way.
So what do you think the future holds for the sector?
I think more of the same. I mean, the reason to be interested in environmental markets as an investment area is because you've got superior growth going on. You know, the drivers are there, spending on clean infrastructure, diversification of resources, solving environmental problems, and this creates growth. There are great business models in the sector, so that's what we're looking for, more growth and diversification to global equity portfolios.
And I think I'd want to add one point to that as well, is that it's very much about the emerging markets. We see, if we look about where the future of energy is around the world, close to 90% of all future investment into energy will be in the emerging markets. So it's trying to find companies that's well positioned against that backdrop as well.
I'd very much like to thank today's speakers. Clearly, the issue of climate change is an important challenge, and it will be interesting to see how the sector develops from here. Please remember, if you're not sure whether this type of investment is suitable for you, you should speak to a financial advisor. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time.